section, we've moved on beyond shapes, right? So now we're doing variations with Annika. So variations are kind of a pretty common aspect of improvisation, right? You take an existing tune, often a simple tune, and you mess around with it, you experiment with it. I mentioned Twinkle Twinkle, there's like a famous variations on Twinkle Twinkle that Mozart wrote. All kinds of variations on a theme that are existing in the classical repertoire. If you're somebody who likes jazz, like every jazz standard is in some sense kind of like variations because there's a very simple chart, but then people, go nuts with it. So it's a long tradition in music. What we're going to do is take something that maybe doesn't traditionally have variations and make our own little variations on it. So it's not the same as like improvising from scratch, but it's pretty fun. I think it's a nice way to kind of also deconstruct the music that you're playing, even if you are playing from sheet music, and learn a little bit more about like kind of what makes it tick. And so I think it'll be a really nice exercise. We're going to do it with this Bach C major prelude. I'm just kind of assuming you probably either played this or somewhat familiar with it. Maybe not. All right. Well, I don't mean to put you on the spot too much. Maybe you can play the first like 4 bars or so. Perfect. Yeah. So, do people know this song? That sounds familiar. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. So before we actually mess with this, which is what we're going to try to do, let's think about like what is Bach doing. So what do you notice? Just kind of out of the box. Even though I know you could literally just see.
No, the shape.
Yeah, he literally moved that shape, right?
And then stands it a little bit. And returns.
Beautiful, yeah. Yeah, it keeps going, exactly. What about the left hand?
Seconds, thirds.
Yeah. So what's happening here is, yeah, it's not like a drum, yeah, exactly. There's sort of one flowing, like to the listener, it sounds like one flow, like. But to the player, it's actually broken up into a left and a right hand. So it's actually 2 notes, right, in the left hand, and then 3 notes, and then those same 3 notes, like. So if you really mathematically write it down, it's like sort of 2 plus 3 plus 3, or 2 plus 6, I guess. So 8 total notes, 2, and then 3. When I hear this, I think, since I like to think in terms of like other instruments, I imagine this being played like, obviously you're playing it on the piano, but it kind of sounds like a harp or a lute. It sounds like one flowing arpeggio. And we're only playing the first few bars here, but the whole piece does that throughout. So that's definitely a vibe that I think Bach was probably going for here, which is interesting. Okay, so we're not going to need like this music. What I did here, you wrote it down kind of in terms of the chords. Does that make any sense to you if you look at that? Would you be able to kind of play the original from this? Almost, yeah. There you go. For the audience, it's just, instead of writing the notes, we write them in a stack. And it's just easier to kind of, yeah, exactly. So the reason I did that is because what I want to do with you involves changing this music enough that I think looking at it is going to be confusing. But looking at this, which is more like a skeleton of the music, is hopefully going to actually be somewhat helpful. But we don't even need to look at this if that's causing some friction. So we'll see. So, okay, we have the basic idea. Bach is playing around, and he's doing it with like group of 2, group of 3. Okay, so what are the kinds of things we can change? Well, we wrote a big list down. You can't see it, but you probably remember. We've got rhythm, silence, dynamics, articulation. So why don't you just make some change to the way you had been playing it. Okay, did you guys hear the change? Punch that top note. Yeah, do it again, but I want you to really, really go for it. Maybe make the top note like short and you know, make it a pop. Yeah, some of those are better than others, but yeah, I think that was definitely on the right track. Cool. Do you play any jazz? It's all right.
I love jazz.
You know what I mean? If I say like swing it?
Could get there.
Yeah, someone in the audience is kind of. Yeah, you got Yeah, do that again and I'll play with you. Probably not what Bach intended, but you know, it gives you some sense of how you can change. That was changing like the rhythm, right? So instead of. All right, let's do something a little harder. What we're going to try to do is change the beat. So let's think about that. What does that have to mean? So right now it's basically in like 4/4 or 2/4, like let's say 2 maybe. 2. Or maybe we could say it's in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. The reason it's in 4 is because Bach created 8 notes. But you're not Bach, and there aren't even 8 notes. There's only those notes, so you can just make a different number of notes however you want. So it's a little hard, but let's try to make it like in like a waltz pattern, like in G maybe. So think about a waltz. It'll be like yum, bum, bum, bum. Yeah. I think so far. Let me give you I can give you a suggestion.
Yeah, like on.
Maybe something like. Maybe. Yeah, you don't have to necessarily play all the notes. Or that good. That's great. I like that. Do that again. That's a cool one. So that's what we mean by like changing this beat, right? How different is that from the original? Well, it is fairly different.
I'm still in like 3/4.
That's great. Yeah. Let me give you a suggestion for that one because I think it'll be fun. Suppose you're the quote guitarist for this, and you just get in a hurry. So instead of doing what you're doing, create the silence, but I want you to like roll each chord. Yeah, a little slower. That's where we need This is like abstract Bach. You're like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. we say silence, I guess it is clear that we don't literally necessarily mean, like, there's still a sustain happening, but pause maybe is better, sort of pause in the narrative flow. So yeah, we did some silence. The tone is kind of a hard one on the piano, but I think it's funny, a lot of these are coupled together, like when you change the beat, like when you played it as a jazz kind of a rhythm, you unconsciously, change some of these other things at the same time, because it would be weird to have it have this jazz vibe, but also be like really, contemplative or something, right? Jazz is kind of, it just kind of doesn't work. So it's hard to necessarily like change all these independently. But yeah, okay, let's try like kind of a harder one, but I think it'll be interesting. I think I might need to demonstrate this a little bit. So I know at the beginning I said, maybe we won't really be changing around notes as much, but it is kind of fun to do. So one thing you can sort of notice with this Bach pattern is like, you got these 2 notes and 3 notes, you even said it yourself. There's this shape, and then you just kind of move to the shape, right? A little bit. So, obviously the choice of notes does matter, but they're all small little things. You move one down. You're kind of making these little snaky movement. So one thing you can try, and this is much more experimental, is keep the basic pattern of like the flow, the original flow. And I'll keep the same notes for a little while. But what I'm going to start doing eventually is just playing different notes. Which different notes am I playing? I'm mostly just moving like the outer notes. I'm not doing anything in particular, but it has the same Bachian flow, but the notes are totally different. And it's kind of an interesting thing to try. As you do it, you might hear something you don't like, but just keep going. Just keep going. Yeah, resolve it. That was great. Have you done that before?